The seventh episode of The Rings of Power Season 1 is titled The Eye. The episode begins with the aftermath of Mount Doom's eruption. The survivors of the Southlands are left to pick up the pieces. Galadriel awakens to a transformed landscape, a once lush land now reduced to a desolate wasteland. She finds Theo amidst the destruction, and the two set out together. Miriel and Isildur lead the rescue efforts in the ruins. They find Valendil under the rubble and bring him out, but Valendil and Isildur's other friend is found dead, much to their despair. Miriel loses her eyesight in the process when a sudden fire erupts, which ends up blinding her. Elendil assumes the worst when Isildur isn't with Valendil and Queen Miriel and decides to return to Numenor without him. Galadriel opens up to Theo, sharing the pain of losing her brother and her husband, Celeborn, who died fighting against Morgoth. She reassures Theo that the current disaster is not his fault, remarking, "There are forces beyond darkness at work in this world. Perhaps on days like this, we must trust their plans and surrender our own." Curious, Theo asks Galadriel if she has killed many orcs, to which she responds affirmatively. Galadriel assures Theo that he will have plenty of opportunities to fight orcs as well. When Theo questions if she considers herself a soldier now, Galadriel hands him her sword and suggests that perhaps they can mold him into a soldier yet. Meanwhile, in Khazad-dûm, Elrond pleads with King Durin to save his people by allowing them to mine the mithril. The king, however, says that he cannot risk the lives of dwarves in the deep mines just to help the elves cheat death. After the king's decision, Elrond bids a tearful farewell to his friend Prince Durin. Overwhelmed by the prospect of losing Elrond, Prince Durin desperately calls out for him to stay. Ignoring the king's orders, they embark on a secret mining expedition deep within the mountain, where they uncover a vast quantity of mithril. Their elation, however, is short-lived as King Durin catches them in the act. Enraged, the king banishes Elrond, refusing to mine the mithril or aid the elves in any way. Prince Durin confronts his father in a heated argument, accusing him of betraying the principles of their crown. When Prince Durin declares Elrond as dear as a brother, a sentiment akin to being born from their own mother's womb, King Durin's anger peaks. He strips Prince Durin of his princedom before storming away in fury. In the Harfoot camp, Sadok reluctantly decides to send the stranger away, fearing the danger posed by his powers to their vulnerable community. Before departing, Sadok leaves the stranger a clue regarding the constellation he has been seeking and bids him farewell. The following morning, the Harfoots awaken to a remarkable sight. The previously barren Blackland has transformed into lush greenery, adorned with thriving apple trees. The stranger had utilized his mysterious abilities to accelerate the growth of the apple trees, offering a much-needed break for the Harfoot community. Meanwhile, the mystics, the mysterious beings who have been tracking the stranger, arrive at the Harfoot camp, sensing the stranger's presence there. Nori spots them and attempts to mislead them, directing them away from the stranger's trail. Her father intervenes with a torch, warning the mystics that he will defend his daughter fiercely. Unbeknownst to him, one of the mystics known as the Dweller possesses the ability to control fire with magic. Ignoring the threat, the Dweller callously sets the entire Harfoot caravan ablaze, reducing their homes to ash in a devastating display of power. Following the destruction of their settlement by the Dweller, the Harfoots, led by Nori, decide to catch up with the stranger. As they clean up the charred remnants of their homes, Largo reminds them that Harfoots stay true to each other, no matter how winding or steep the path. Inspired by her father's words, Nori sets out to find the stranger, joined by Poppy and Marigold. Sadok, moved by their resolve, decides to accompany them on their journey. Meanwhile, the survivors of the Southlands regroup at a Númenórean encampment, where Theo is reunited with Bronwyn and Arondir. Galadriel kneels before the blinded Miriel, who vows to return to Middle-earth again. With their home destroyed, the Southlanders prepare to travel to Pelargir, an old Númenórean colony, for a fresh start, as Queen Miriel and Elendil set sail for Númenor. Galadriel reunites with an injured Halbrand, discovered on the road amidst the chaos, his wounds too severe for the Southlanders' medicine. Seeing his condition, Galadriel informs Bronwyn that Halbrand, now deemed the King of the Southlands, requires elvish medicine to recover. They prepare to ride towards Lindon for this purpose. As they depart, the Southlanders bow before Halbrand, chanting in unison, "Strength to the King! Strength to the Southlands!" In the Southlands, Ader walks amongst his forces amidst the red mist of the volcano. The orcs acclaim him as the Lord of the Southlands, but Adar dismisses this title, stating, "That is the name of a place that exists no longer." He then declares the Southlands as the orcs' new home and gives it the name of Mordor. As this unfolds, deep within the mithril mines, an ancient and immensely powerful creature, a Balrog, awakens. This occurs when King Durin throws an elven leaf down into the mines, and upon touching the ground, it incinerates, triggering the Balrog's awakening. This concludes the 7th episode of The Rings of Power Season 1. The 8th and final episode of The Rings of Power Season 1 is titled Alloyed. The episode begins with the stranger wandering through the forest. He continues to hear Nori's reassuring voice in his head, telling him, "You're good." He suddenly sees a hooded figure who suddenly starts running away from him. The stranger, thinking that it's Nori, stumbles his way forward towards the hooded figure. As he stumbles down a steep hill, he loses the precious apple Nori had given him. When he reaches the bottom of the hill, the stranger encounters the 3 mystics, the Dweller, the Ascetic, and the Nomad. The 3 mystics bow down in front of the stranger and say, "We've come to serve you, Lord Sauron." They believe the stranger is Sauron and try to remind him of his true identity as the Dark Lord through magic and persuasion. The stranger shows him the constellation that he's been carrying with him, and the mystics tell him that it is visible in only one place, the land of Rhûn. Nori and Sadok race to the spot where the stranger is kneeling, bound by the mystics. As they attempt to free him, they discover it is actually the ascetic, who has taken on the stranger's form. Suddenly, the mystic stabs Sadok, mortally wounding him. With Nori's friends about to face the same fate, Nori hands the stranger a staff and tells him they need him right now. The stranger, seeing Nori in danger, transforms into his powerful Istar form. The 3 mystics immediately realize that he is not Sauron, but the other one, the Istar. The stranger uses the staff to unleash a powerful blast of energy, evaporating all 3 mystics. Nori rushes to Sadok's side as the other Harfoots gather around. They sit with the dying Sadok, watching the sunrise together and celebrating his life. Meanwhile, Galadriel and Halbrand arrive in Lindon to have Halbrand's wounds treated. Elrond, having returned from exile in the Dwarven lands, informs Celebrimbor that the dwarves have refused to provide the pure mithril ore needed to forge the elven rings of power. Despite the limited quantity, Celebrimbor suggests they may still be able to create something useful from the small shard of mithril they possess. Galadriel and Elrond reconcile, with Elrond admitting he should have trusted her more and promising not to make the same mistake again. Shortly thereafter, Halbrand, now recovered from his wounds, finds Celebrimbor in his workshop. He praises the elven smith's work and notices the mithril ore on the table. Curious, he asks Celebrimbor about the ore, and Celebrimbor explains that whatever they have, it's not enough. Halbrand then suggests using other ores to amplify the limited mithril they possess. Intrigued by Halbrand's idea, Celebrimbor agrees to work with him to forge the Rings of Power. In the most shocking revelation of the series, Galadriel discovers that Halbrand has lied about his lineage and is, in fact, Sauron. Cornering him, she presses her dagger against his throat, searching his eyes for any sign of deception. Halbrand meets her gaze steadily, unfazed by the sharp blade. Suddenly, Galadriel is plunged into a vision where the world around her shifts, and she finds herself on a raft in the middle of the ocean with Halbrand. In a reflection, she sees him as he truly is, the towering iron-armored figure of Sauron, the Dark Lord. Halbrand, as Sauron, asks Galadriel to stand beside him as his queen, promising that together they will save Middle-earth. The temptation is strong, and Galadriel feels the allure of wielding such great power. However, she remembers her purpose and her vow to protect Middle-earth from evil. With great effort, she tears her gaze away from Sauron's, shattering the vision. Angered by her rejection, Sauron threatens vengeance, vowing that she will watch as Middle-earth burns. Suddenly, Galadriel is plunged into the raging sea. Just in time, Elrond arrives to save her from drowning. Galadriel quickly makes her way to Celebrimbor's workshop and insists that they forge 3 rings of power rather than 1. She says that 1 ring will always corrupt, 2 will divide, but with 3, there will be balance. Galadriel insists that the power that they forge should only be given to the elves for the sake of balance and the preservation of their immortality. Celebrimbor agrees, but tells her that he requires the purest gold and silver from Valinor to alloy with the mithril. Galadriel realizes she must sacrifice her brother Finrod's cherished dagger to obtain these materials, a difficult decision that weighs heavily on her heart. In the Harfoot community, Nori's father and mother encourage her to follow her destiny, acknowledging that she is now part of something greater. They give her their blessing to accompany the stranger, knowing he will need her. Nori gathers with her fellow Harfoots, including her best friend Poppy, to say her goodbyes. The scene is filled with bittersweet moments as Nori expresses her gratitude and affection for her family and friends. Poppy, visibly distressed by Nori's decision, runs to hug her one last time. Nori reassures Poppy that she will be all right and encourages her to continue living life to the fullest. The 2 friends share a heartfelt embrace, both shedding tears in this poignant scene. Meanwhile, in Celebrimbor's workshop, the 3 rings of power are forged. 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 white, each crafted by the expert smiths of the elves. As the rings are completed, an ominous presence makes itself known. It is Sauron, the Dark Lord, keenly aware of the creation of these powerful artifacts. Galadriel looks on with a foreboding expression, fully aware of the immense responsibility now resting on her shoulders. As this unfolds, Halbrand reaches Mount Doom in the Southlands, which is where the 1 ring will one day be forged by Sauron, as explained in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This concludes the 8th and final episode of The Rings of Power Season 1.